Welcome in to the Mile High Hoops podcast. It's me, Jake Shapiro, for another edition of this lovely podcast, which you can catch on Denver Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to all our content there. Wonderful stuff about all the teams in town. But today, we've got some stuff on the Denver Nuggets, who are on the verge of making team history. We'll get to that. Have suffered a major injury. We'll get to that as well. And have two big-time contenders coming in to Denver over the Nuggets' 3 next games. So we'll talk about that as well. So obviously a lot going on in Nuggets world, but I think it's important to start from the top today, which is that Nikola Jokic just missed practice today, earlier on Thursday. And, he's missed the last 3 games, so maybe not that big of a surprise. He's been out for personal reasons for quite a while. We talked a little bit on Tuesday's pod, some of the reasons why he might be out. I still am not concerned. I'm a little surprised he was not at practice today, and that's why it's a little newsworthy. But if he misses Friday's game against Dallas, which is tomorrow, Friday, that's at the point where I start to raise my eyebrows and am concerned officially about whatever might be going on with the Denver Nuggets star center. Of course, Jokic is leading the NBA minutes per game. He's off to this historic start in his first 10 games. The Nuggets are now through 13 games. They went 1-2 without Jokic on this road trip, and they were 7-3 with Jokic so far this season. And he's the best player in the world. They need him. They absolutely need him. They've got a break against Dallas on Friday because Luka is not going to play. Then they're in LA for a back-to-back Saturday night, and then they host the Knicks, who were my finals pick at the start of the season. They beat the Suns last night on Monday in Denver. So a good stretch of games that I think the Nuggets are going to very much struggle to win, with or without Luka, without Nikola Jokic. So it's pretty important now that the Nuggets get Jokic back. That's something I'll be watching for on Friday. That's going to be the primary part of my coverage, when you can check that all out on denversports.com and on my social media channels. And that's from the top, because he is the center of the universe for the Denver Nuggets. And if he is not playing, none of the rest of this matters. None of the rest of this podcast matters. None of the Nuggets matter, right? Like, we know what the team looks like without Jokic, and it's just not going to work. So from the Nuggets standpoint, they need Jokic back on Friday. It's getting to be too long. We hope everything's going well with him and his family, because personal reasons can mean a lot of things. And obviously what we alluded to, there could be maybe some medical complications going on. Who knows? It's only for him. It's a private matter. And yeah. Okay. So I talked about a big injury as well. And this just happened on Tuesday's game, where Vlatko Čančar leaves the Nuggets game against Memphis with an injury, leaving them significantly shorthanded, because they're without Aaron Gordon right now as well. So 3 front court players, including Jokic. And then you had Dario Saric and Peyton Watson get into foul trouble. So basically your roster at one point in the third quarter was down to really 10 guys you could play. And Jalen Pickett's in the G League right now, so make that 9. Hunter Tyson, has shown some stuff every once in a while, but I don't know if he's an NBA player yet. We're trying to figure that out. And Zeke Naji, the trials and tribulations there. So at one point, Michael Malone basically had 7 guys he trusted to play in the third quarter of that Memphis game, which the Nuggets ended up winning. Russell Westbrook, triple-double, was fantastic in that game, has won the Nuggets a 3rd game, maybe a 4th game so far this season. You can make a case that half the Nuggets wins Russell Westbrook's been directly responsible for, right? So that's pretty significant. And Jamal Murray looked a lot more himself in that contest. And then how about Michael Porter Jr.? Hadn't hit a 3 in, trying to think, since last Friday. So he'll have gone a week without hitting a 3. And yet he scored 21 points in that game and was awesome. And again, we've talked about this a lot, and I've talked about this on Coffee Break yesterday. Michael Porter Jr. Becoming a complete basketball player, and we've seen it. I've talked about it quite a bit. And he found a way yesterday to be a contributor and be a scorer while scoring all of his points at the rim. And that's what you love to see from a guy who's 6'10". He has finally realized that he is huge. He is a load inside, and that great shooting touch can be great touch by the rim as well. But we go back to the injury. And I've made this case that last year, one of the reasons the Nuggets did not win, there were several reasons, but one of the top 5 for me was that Vlatko Čančar missed the entire season. The Nuggets simply did not have another option off their bench. It shortened their bench through a significant part of the regular season. And then when they got to the playoffs, Michael Malone, who has trusted Vlatko Čančar in the past, could not go to Vlatko Čančar because he was out. He gets healthy enough to play for the Olympic qualifying matches for Slovenia. Looks pretty good. The Nuggets re-sign him. He's one of Jokic's best friends, and he's a really versatile, usable player. He is an NBA player, and he starts this season banged up with something. We're still kind of unclear with what that was. And then he goes down with a knee injury that's sounding like I'm not really going to speculate, but just based off of some of the things Michael Malone said today, it's kind of in like the torn meniscus-y area or some type of knee injury like that. Either way, not good. And the Nuggets are going to have to look at some options. Malone said they're going to talk to him about surgery, whether or not he wants to do that or not. And that's why I say that with the meniscus, because sometimes you have the option of surgery or not, and we know it's a knee injury. It could be something else. I am not a doctor, so please do not quote me on any of the things that I suspect here. I have no information. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together. But either way, Vlatko will likely be out till at least, March-ish, February-ish, if not the whole season, which, for the Nuggets, who are already with one front court guy done for the season, and Duran Holmes. So they were down to 6 guys at Memphis the other night. I forgot Duran Holmes is on one of the 15 guys, and he's obviously done for the year. So Nuggets already potentially are done with a power forward and a center for the entire season, or a power forward and power forward, depending on what you qualify Duran Holmes as. And these guys maybe, aren't the starting 5. They're not going to play crunch time minutes, yada, yada, yada. But they were going to play. Like Duran Holmes would have played by now based off of what we're seeing. And Vlatko was already playing. So those minutes are going to go to other people, whether that's putting more minutes on guys like Peyton Watson, or somehow it waterfalls back into the starters where Nikola Jokic is already playing 40 minutes a game. So it's a little concerning because the Nuggets' depth is being tested already, and they don't have the option to backfill their roster. Unlike the NFL, you can't just get a guy because you have a guy done for the year. In the NBA, you need a significant amount of injuries on your roster to apply for an injury designation, which can allow you to sign another player. It's a complex structure within the collective bargaining agreement. All you need to know is the Nuggets might have to call on their 3 two-way guys, one of which is Trey Alexander. We've seen a little bit. And then they've got 2 other guys that we really don't know all that much about. And that's a tough situation to be in. But at the same time, Jay Huff, who has been awesome for the Grizzlies, was a 2-way guy for the Nuggets last year. So maybe this is an opportunity for a guy to step up, to be a rotation player that we never would have guessed is an NBA rotation player. But more likely, this is going to be a situation where even more pressure is now on Zeke Naji and Dario Saric to provide backup front court minutes behind Jokic and Gordon, and sometimes Porter as well, and Watson, depending on who's in starting lineup that day with the other injuries. But it's going to fall back on Zeke and Dario is the point. And I really thought, in addition to just the minutes thing, the thing about Vlatko that is so special and so undervalued, one of the most undervalued things in the NBA, in my opinion, is a connecting forward. A forward who can connect plays together in the front court or in the half court, in the full court. He can make plays out on the run. He's a very athletic player. He can shoot. He's played several different positions for the Nuggets. So this is basically your Swiss Army knife in case break glass in case of emergency guy who can fill in multiple things that is not going to be available to you. So the Nuggets' margin for error, which was already incredibly small, thins even more with the news of Vlatko's injury. Another thing that we wanted to talk about today is these potential matchups with the Knicks and Mavericks. And obviously, again, I started this podcast with saying it. I'll preface it again. If Jokic is playing, we're not going to learn anything in these matchups against Dallas and New York. But I will be looking for a couple things if he does play. And against Dallas, even without Luka, they have a lot of threats out on the perimeter, right? Kyrie, Clay, good perimeter guys, shooters. And that's where the Nuggets have struggled a little bit historically, particularly without KCP. So Aaron Gordon's status is to be determined, which means he could play tomorrow. We'll see. But I really want to see that Dallas matchup once Aaron Gordon comes back, because I want to see what the tandem of Gordon and Christian Brown and Peyton Watson, I guess make it a trio, can do against Kyrie, Luka, and Clay. Still, we're going to get that matchup of Christian against Kyrie, and Christian thus far has not done a great job on these smaller guards, only kind of these bigger wings that also ball handle, like a Devin Booker or a Luka Doncic. I want to see him actually put the fire out on a smaller guard like Kyrie, who was at one point 16 and 19 in the last time the Nuggets played the Mavericks. So that's one of the things I'll be looking for in that Dallas matchup. The other thing is they should have Derek Lively and PJ Washington in this game, and they didn't have them last time. I want to see what that big matchup looks like, particularly if Jokic is playing, because Jokic versus Lively is stylistically two different bigs, and Lively got eaten alive by Jokic last year. So how does Lively look in year 2 against Jokic? You know, from 19 to 20 years old, you're going to put on a lot of weight. You're going to be stronger. You're going to look a little different. So I want to see how that looks. And the athleticism of Lively is obviously very impressive. So a couple things in that Dallas matchup to look for from a team that made the NBA Finals last year. And this is an NBA Cup game. We'll see if the Nuggets are actually trying to do anything in the NBA Cup. They won that game on Tuesday, which means they're 1-1. They'll need to win on Friday in order to have a shot at advancing in the NBA Cup. I think last year only teams that lost one game or no games got in through the group stage into the next round, the knockout round. Those are the couple things that play there in the Dallas game. And then I don't talk to you between now and when the Knicks play. I cannot wait to recap that game on the next podcast on Tuesday. But the New York Knicks were the team I had winning the NBA Finals on this podcast. And I watched them play the Phoenix Suns last night. And granted, Bradley Beal was not playing, and neither was Kevin Durant. Scored 44 points in the first quarter. They made a statement. And that starting five, they're starting to gel. And they might be the most talented starting five in the NBA. Bridges, Anunoby, Brunson, Cat, Mitchell Robinson when he comes back. Josh Hart's quite a player. That's a good team. And Tom Thibodeau's a good coach. It's fun to watch them play, and they were shooting so well from 3 last night to start that game. They scare me. You know, last year I said last year, the only team better than the Nuggets in my mind was the Boston Celtics. I thought the Timberwolves were just a bad matchup, and the Nuggets were tired. Right now, as of today, with Nikola Jokic healthy, I still think that the Celtics and probably the Thunder are better than the Nuggets realistically. But there might be a third team now, and that might be the Knicks. And I'm excited to see them play basketball. And hopefully Aaron Gordon's back for that game, because Aaron Gordon allows the Nuggets to put him on Karl Anthony Towns and sit him out on the three-point line, or even Michael Porter Jr. And then AG can match up potentially with one of the guys between Bridges and Anunoby, and then you go with Jokic on Josh Hart. So I kind of want to see how the Nuggets would match up against a team like that. Do the Nuggets put Nikola Jokic on the non-shooter Josh Hart rather than the big Karl Anthony Towns? Because that's kind of what they've done in the past. So with the makeup of the team currently, how does that work out? And Jalen Brunson, again, a smaller guard, Christian Brown against Jalen Brunson. How does that look? So those are some of the things I'll be looking at in that Nuggets-Knicks game. Again, all dependent on the Nuggets being healthy, but the Knicks are going to be rested. They don't have a game before or a game after. This is not a back-to-back, which is rare for these East Coast teams playing these West Coast trips. And I believe this game's on national TV as well. So a lot of hype here. And I can't go the podcast without mentioning this. We talked about 3 games the Nuggets play between now and the next time I talk to you. And one of the things I'll be talking to you on the next pod, hopefully, because the Nuggets don't lose all 3, is Michael Malone breaking Doug Moe's all-time coaching record for the Denver Nuggets franchise, which currently sits at 432 wins. Malone and Mo are tied at that mark after Tuesday's win in Memphis. You can make a strong case already that Michael Malone is the greatest coach in Denver Nuggets history. And obviously, this is the golden era of Nuggets basketball. This is only going to further and strengthen his case. But Doug Moe's 432 hangs from the rafters, which means whatever happens with Michael Malone here in the next et cetera years, that number is going to end up hanging up in the rafters at Ball Arena as well. I'm going to do a little bit more on Malone on Tuesday when the record will have been broken. But some of the things that are kind of on my mind is, just going through the big moments of Malone's coaching career, whether that be the bubble, coming back from down 3-1, or, instituting the character and the drive to come back from that brutal Brian Shaw era and coaching Nikola Jokic into one of the best players in the league and helping Porter and Jamal develop. So there's a lot to go over with Malone because he hasn't gotten enough credit for all of this stuff. I am not even the biggest Malone guy, but I am not a Malone hater by any means necessary. I think he is a very, very good coach. And again, probably the best one in Nuggets history. All right. That's the Mile High Hoops podcast for today. We're hoping Nikola Jokic is okay. Hope things move a little bit better for Vlatko Čančar. Cannot wait to watch this game against Dallas on Friday. And again, the Nuggets-Knicks on Monday. The Lakers, who cares at this point? It's the Lakers. We all know what this looks like. Jake Shapiro, Denver Sports. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where we're trying to get all the action headed into 2025. Can you believe it? We're almost here, 2025. Tuesday's the last podcast before Thanksgiving. Make sure your turkeys are ready, or in my case, I'm bringing the apple pie to Thanksgiving. I want to know on Tuesday what you're prepping. So tune in on Tuesday and tell me what you're prepping for your Thanksgiving dinner.